Welcome to the Deep Dive, our daily look at cybersecurity news.
We've got a lot to cover today.
We're pulling from sources like CSO Online, the Hacker News, Security Affairs, and Cybel.
A real mix.
Yeah, a mix of cybersecurity blogs and news sites.
To help you guys quickly understand what's going on.
What's happening out there in the world of cybersecurity.
Yeah, and what it means for you.
Yeah, what it means for you, exactly. So first up, let's talk about some potential changes in U.S. cyber strategy.
Yeah, reports are indicating a big change.
A significant change under the Trump administration.
Right. They indicate that U.S. Cyber Command and CISA have been directed to stand down.
Stand down.
From offensive cyber operations and reporting against Russia.
Oh, wow.
So this has caused a bit of a stir.
That's kind of a big deal. Why?
Well, I mean, even the 2024 annual threat assessment, they highlighted Russia as a major cyber threat.
Right.
This sudden shift has sparked debate.
Among experts, I'm sure.
Yeah, amongst experts. Some are surprised, given Russia's history, while others believe it could be a strategic move.
A strategic maneuver.
Yeah, to encourage peace talks with Ukraine.
Okay, interesting. But I'm guessing not everyone agrees with this assessment.
You are correct. Representative Mike Turner, who is a very strong supporter of NATO and Ukraine,
Oh, right.
he disputes these reports and suggests that U.S. cyber operations against Russia are ongoing.
Still going on.
So this is a very delicate situation.
It's definitely adding another layer of complexity to an already tense situation.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's move on to the global ransomware scene. We have updates on Lockbit and Black Basta.
Oh, yes.
The UK and its allies have imposed sanctions on a Russian web hosting provider
Oh, wow.
for supporting Lockbit.
This is a huge step.
This is a big step.
Lockbit, they're known for some high-profile attacks.
Yeah, like Boeing.
Boeing, the UK's National Health Service.
Wow.
So sanctioning a web hosting provider, it really sends a strong message.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you can't be out there supporting these guys.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this leads me to think about the Black Basta leaks. Leaked logs from Black Basta are giving us a glimpse into their attack playbook.
Yes.
And what I think is really striking here is that they use exploits before they become public knowledge.
Yeah, that is concerning.
That's a concerning detail.
Those logs, they revealed over 60 unique CVEs.
Right.
And just recently, an analysis found that 23 of those vulnerabilities have been actively exploited.
In the past month.
In the past month.
Wow.
So that tells us that Black Basta, they have access to resources and knowledge that puts organizations at a very, very high risk.
It's like if you know about a weakness in a system before anyone else.
Right.
The potential for damage is huge.
Oh, it's huge.
So this raises some serious questions about how they get these exploits.
Right.
And what it means for future attacks.
Yeah.
So their playbook seems to be targeting all sorts of entry points.
Oh, it's a wide range.
Everything from exposed RDP, which is like a backdoor into a computer,
Right,
to VPN services, to those, infamous zero-day exploits.
Yeah, and those 0 days, they're vulnerabilities that are unknown to the vendor.
Making them especially dangerous.
That's why it is so critical for organizations to be proactive, regularly updating systems, managing vulnerabilities, implementing security. It's essential. Waiting to act, it only increases the risk.
Right.
And these ransomware attacks, they're getting so much more sophisticated.
So much more sophisticated. The Black Basta situation really makes me think about how the line between AI and security is blurring.
Yeah.
And, there's one story that really exemplifies this tension. It's the UK government's demand for access to encrypted iCloud backups
Yes.
under the Investigatory Powers Act.
Right.
This demand has caused Apple to withdraw its advanced data protection feature for UK users.
Yeah.
So this situation's highlighting this ongoing debate.
Oh, yeah.
The balance between national security and individual privacy.
Definitely a difficult situation.
It's a tough balancing act, for sure. But it's not just governments utilizing AI. Threat actors are also using AI to their advantage.
Right.
Researchers recently discovered hard-coded API keys.
Which are like digital passwords?
Yeah, digital passwords. And just regular passwords embedded in the training data of large language models.
Like DeepSeek.
DeepSeek, yeah.
Researchers, they found over 12,000 live API keys and passwords.
In DeepSeek's training data alone.
Alone, yes.
Oh.
This discovery, it raises serious concerns about unintended security risks.
With AI development. Right. Well, this is a really good point. These incidents just highlight how crucial it is that as we increasingly integrate AI into our lives,
Right.
we need to be thinking about secure coding practices, and vigilance in development and deployment.
Yes.
I mean, overlooking these potential vulnerabilities could have dire consequences.
Very dire consequences. Next, let's take a look at some recent cyber attacks that have made headlines. A cyber attack targeted the Polish space agency, also known as Polsa.
Polsa. Okay. This attack, it emphasizes a pretty concerning trend. We're seeing more and more cyber threats aimed at national agencies worldwide.
Yeah, it raises questions about the motives, capabilities of the attackers, demonstrates their willingness to disrupt critical infrastructure.
Wow. Sensitive research.
Sensitive research, yeah.
This situation underscores the need for robust cybersecurity measures across all sectors, not just those traditionally considered high risk.
Definitely, that's why.
And another concerning incident, an Australian IVF clinic, Genia, they suffered a ransomware attack,
Genius!
compromising sensitive patient data.
The group, Termite, they stole almost a terabyte of patient data.
A terabyte.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, so this is a stark reminder that cybersecurity isn't just an IT concern, it's a fundamental component of patient safety.
And trust in the healthcare system.
And trust, yeah.
Yeah.
So it also brings to light the vulnerability of healthcare institutions to cyber attacks and the devastating consequences of data breaches in such sensitive areas.
Definitely.
A Serbian student activist's phone was hacked utilizing a Celebrate Zero-Day exploit.
Oh, wow.
That's
It
scary.
is a bit scary.
It's a sobering reminder that anyone can be a target.
Right.
And this particular incident highlights the evolving methods and tools employed by threat actors.
Yeah, the fact that a zero-day exploit, a vulnerability unknown to the developer, was used against an activist suggests this was a highly sophisticated attack.
This is a reminder that we all need to be vigilant
Oh, yeah.
in protecting our digital lives and understanding the risks.
In today's interconnected world.
In today's world, absolutely.
Hmm.
So let's shift gears now and focus on some cybersecurity best practices highlighted during National Consumer Protection Week.
Oh, yes.
This week is all about emphasizing the importance of protecting personal data in our digital world.
It is.
So experts are urging both individuals and organizations to prioritize strong cybersecurity practices.
This includes implementing multi-factor authentication.
MFA.
MFA, that's right. It's an extra layer of security. Network segmentation, robust incident response plans, vulnerability management, regular audits, and staying informed.
About the latest security advisories, it sounds like a lot.
It is.
But these practices, they're absolutely crucial for mitigating risk.
They are in an increasingly interconnected world.
In an increasingly interconnected world, yeah. Businesses are also being urged to prioritize cybersecurity in their solar energy system deployments.
That's right.
Now, this is an area that might not immediately come to mind.
You wouldn't think so, right?
You wouldn't think so.
But as we move towards, more sustainable energy solutions, we need to be mindful of the security implications.
The implications.
Yeah, you see the increasing reliance on distributed energy resources.
Okay,
It presents new points of vulnerability
I see.
that attackers could exploit.
Attackers could exploit, right.
Yeah.
So it's about ensuring that security is baked in.
From the get-go.
Yeah, from the ground up,
Exactly.
not just an afterthought.
Neglecting cybersecurity in this sector, it could have serious consequences.
For businesses.
And the broader energy grid.
And the broader energy grid.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some alarming developments within the U.S. cyber landscape. Reports indicate that the Department of Homeland Security is restructuring its cybersecurity personnel.
Right. They plan to terminate 12 employees
So, CISA.
from CISA that
Yep.
were involved in monitoring misinformation.
Okay, so this move has sparked debate
Oh, yeah.
about the role of federal agencies in regulating information
Right.
and its potential impact on free speech.
Yeah.
So, in fact, all election security activities are temporarily paused
That's right.
to assess their implications on free speech.
Yes.
It's a delicate balancing act. The need to protect democratic processes must be balanced with safeguarding individual liberties.
Yeah.
And speaking of delicate balancing acts, it appears there's a shift in focus regarding AI safety policies as well.
Yeah, the focus seems to be shifting more towards security-focused issues, potentially sidelining ethical considerations like bias and content accuracy.
So are we prioritizing security over ethical considerations when it comes to AI?
Well, some experts express concern that this shift could hinder the comprehensive governance of AI technologies. We'll have to watch and see.
We'll have to keep a close eye on this evolving landscape. And speaking of keeping a close eye on things, there have been reports of a pretty significant cybersecurity breach.
Oh, at the U.S. Treasury Department.
The U.S. Treasury Department, wow.
This breach is attributed to Chinese state-sponsored actors, and it resulted in unauthorized access to unclassified documents.
Wow, this event just exposes vulnerabilities.
In federal cybersecurity defenses.
And federal cybersecurity defenses.
Mm.
Well, cybersecurity is clearly a concern across sectors. And in another concerning development, Malaysia has seen a surge in ransomware cases.
Oh, wow.
The Cyber 9999 Incident Response Center in Malaysia reported a 78% increase in ransomware incidents in the last quarter of 2024, compared to the previous quarter.
That's a big jump.
That is a very sharp rise in activity. Who are the main targets of these attacks?
Businesses are the primary targets, particularly those reliant on Active Directory servers.
Okay.
Those servers are commonly used to manage access and permissions within a network.
So what kind of attack methods are these ransomware groups using?
They're exploiting vulnerabilities in those Active Directory servers, taking advantage of weaknesses in virtualization platforms,
Okay.
and leveraging credential-based attacks, things like phishing, brute force, and stolen credentials.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
Multi-pronged approach.
Multi-pronged approach, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this situation reinforces the need for a multi-layered cybersecurity strategy. Organizations can't just rely on a single defense mechanism. They need a combination of approaches to counter these constantly evolving threats.
Definitely, definitely.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about some vulnerabilities that have recently been in the news. One that's causing a lot of concern is CVE 2025-26465.
Oh, in OpenSSH.
In OpenSSH, right.
Yeah, it's a critical vulnerability.
It could allow attackers to conduct man-in-the-middle attacks.
MITM attacks.
MITM attacks, right.
Yeah.
When that verify husky DNS option is enabled. So essentially what we're saying here is that an attacker could impersonate a legitimate server.
Right. Bypass client identity checks.
And potentially gain unauthorized access to sensitive data.
Sensitive data.
So that's a significant risk. How widespread is this vulnerability?
Well, Cyber has detected over 19 million internet-facing instances that could be exposed.
Wow.
What's worse, there's evidence that attackers are actively exploiting it.
So time to patch.
Time to patch.
This is a vulnerability that organizations need to address immediately.
Definitely, definitely.
Now let's look at some recent data breaches and what they reveal about the state of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
One recurring theme in these breaches is human error.
Human error. Even with all this sophisticated security tech, mistakes made by people continue to play a huge role in successful cyber attacks.
So I'm curious, what are some common examples of these human errors?
You know, falling victim to phishing scams, choosing weak passwords, carelessly clicking on malicious links, just a few examples.
Right, so even the strongest security measures are undermined.
Undermined, yes.
By human actions.
By human actions, yes.
So this suggests that cybersecurity isn't just about technology. It's about building a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
In organizations.
In organizations, right.
Yeah.
So investing in security awareness training, that's crucial.
That's crucial.
So employees can understand the tactics that attackers use.
Right.
How to recognize and avoid these potential threats.
Right.
Let's take a look at a specific data breach that really highlights these points.
Ha.
The U.S. drug testing firm, DISA, they recently admitted to a breach that impacted 3.3 million people.
Oh, wow.
This breach exposed sensitive information, names, social security numbers, and even health data.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's a reminder of the immense responsibility organizations have to safeguard the data they hold.
Especially when it's that sensitive.
Especially when it's so sensitive, right? So the financial, reputational, and legal consequences of these breaches, I mean, they can be far-reaching.
Oh, they can be very far-reaching.
Far-reaching, yeah. This case really underscores the need for robust cybersecurity measures.
Right.
And a proactive approach to data protection.
Let's turn our attention now to the ever-evolving landscape of ransomware.
Oh, yeah.
These attacks are continuing to surge. 2024 saw a record number of incidents.
Right.
And 2025 is on track to exceed that.
Yeah, it seems like despite all the awareness,
all the efforts,
the attackers, they're just getting more sophisticated, more persistent.
They're constantly adapting their methods.
They are.
And what's concerning is this emergence of new ransomware groups, each with its own unique approach.
And a level of sophistication.
So can you share some examples of these new groups that are popping up?
The Quellen ransomware group recently took credit for a cyber attack on Lee Enterprises.
Lee Enterprises, a media company that publishes numerous local newspapers.
Oh, wow.
They managed to steal 350 gigabytes of data.
That's a lot of data. So It's alarming to see ransomware groups targeting media organizations. I mean, this could impact the dissemination of information.
Freedom of the press.
Freedom of the press, right.
It highlights that no industry is immune.
No industry is immune.
There was a major ransomware attack on Grubhub. Grubhub, a food delivery service.
So you usually think of food delivery with convenience, not cyber attacks.
Well, this attack, it compromised sensitive data belonging to customers, drivers, and merchants.
Wow. Okay.
It highlights the interconnected nature of our digital world and the cascading consequences of these attacks.
Cascading consequences.
Yeah.
Well, this is another wake-up call for organizations of all sizes.
All sizes.
To prioritize cybersecurity. Let's switch gears now and look at some developments in the world of cryptocurrency.
Oh.
A decentralized moneylender recently experienced a pretty major crypto heist,
Oh, wow.
losing $9.5 million.
Wow, okay.
This just highlights the ongoing security challenges.
In the decentralized finance space.
Decentralized finance, DeFi. DeFi space.
Attackers, they continue to target vulnerabilities in smart contracts, other DeFi protocols. It's a stark reminder, while DeFi is attractive, it also comes with inherent risks.
Right.
So investors, developers need to be very, very aware of these risks.
Prioritize those security measures.
Yes.
To protect their assets.
Protect their assets, definitely.
So it sounds like as the DeFi ecosystem grows,
Right.
we can expect to see a greater focus on security measures.
Oh, yeah. Security audits, bug bounty programs, all that stuff is going to be really, really important.
Absolutely. Well, let's look at a positive development.
Oh, good.
U.S. authorities have recovered $31 million
Wow, okay.
in cryptocurrency.
That was stolen during the 2021 cyber attacks on uranium finance.
Uranium finance.
Yeah. So this recovery is a major win.
For law enforcement.
A strong message to those who engage in cybercrime.
That they will be pursued.
They will be pursued, yes. It's a bright spot.
It is a bright spot.
Amidst all this, discouraging news.
Yeah, discouraging news about all these attacks. Yeah. Let's shift gears now and talk about some specific vulnerabilities and exploits that have been making headlines. One that's been actively exploited is CVE 2025-0366.
Oh, yeah.
It's a high-severity flaw.
In the Jupyter X Core plugin for WordPress, it allows for local file inclusion.
Local file inclusion, LFI.
LFI. So an attacker can inject malicious code into a website.
Oh, using this vulnerability?
Yeah, and it could lead to remote code execution,
Fascinating.
which essentially gives the attacker control over the server.
Over the server and sensitive data.
Yeah, and it affects all versions up to 4.8.7.
So this is a big problem for website owners.
Yeah, it's critical for website owners to update to the latest version.
To patch this vulnerability.
Exactly.
Now, switching gears, we've also seen the emergence of a zero-day exploit targeting VMware ESXi.
Oh, on the dark web?
On the dark web. Okay. This exploit is going for $150,000.
$150,000. It allows attackers to escape from the sandbox to the host on VMware ESXi.
Escape from the sandbox.
Yeah. So this could give them full control over the underlying infrastructure.
Wow. So that price tag, it just underscores the potential for profit.
It does. It's a reminder that vulnerabilities can be weaponized.
Weaponized and sold.
On these underground markets.
On these underground markets.
Yes.
It's a sobering look into how this cybercrime ecosystem operates.
It really is.
So let's talk about Amazon Web Services, AWS.
AWS.
There have been reports of threat actors exploiting misconfigurations in AWS.
Right.
To launch phishing campaigns.
Yeah, they're hijacking those legitimate AWS services.
Like SES.
SES, yeah, which is simple email service and work mail.
To send out these malicious emails.
Yeah, making it look like they're coming from a trusted source.
It's so sneaky. This highlights the importance of properly configuring these cloud services.
Oh, yeah.
Implementing robust security measures.
It's so important.
I mean, to prevent unauthorized access.
And misuse.
And misuse, right? Cloud security is crucial in today's digital landscape. So many organizations rely on these cloud platforms for their operations. So any vulnerability, can have a huge impact.
Absolutely.
Speaking of tricks, attackers have been using this tactic called click-fix to deploy a PowerShell-based command and control framework called Havoc.
Oh, Havoc.
Through SharePoint sites. So can you break this down for us? What exactly does this mean?
They're hiding malware stages behind what looks like legitimate SharePoint sites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, making it more difficult for security solutions to detect them.
And block those threats.
Block the threats, exactly. And they're using the Microsoft Graph API to further disguise those communications within trusted Microsoft services.
So they're blending in
with legitimate traffic.
with legitimate traffic to avoid detection.
Exactly. And it's effective.
It's a reminder that attackers are always coming up with new ways.
New and creative ways to evade detection.
And compromise systems.
Yes.
And compromise system. Okay. Well, this just highlights the need for organizations to be constantly vigilant.
Constantly vigilant. Let's talk about a vulnerability that's been exploited in some high-profile ransomware attacks. It involves a zero-day flaw in Paragon Partition Manager's BioNTDRV.sys driver.
That sounds very technical. Can you explain what that means for those of us who aren't, cybersecurity experts?
Sure. So this flaw, tracked as CVE 2025-0289, allows attackers to essentially gain elevated privileges on a compromised system.
Yeah.
They can then execute arbitrary code,
Meaning?
taking control. It allows them to bypass security measures and deploy ransomware.
Oh, wow. So they can lock down the system and the data.
Exactly.
It's like giving them the keys to the kingdom.
Pretty much. This situation stresses the importance of patching systems quickly and staying vigilant against those zero-day exploits. They're particularly dangerous because they're unknown,
Right.
making them difficult to defend against.
It seems like we're always playing catch-up with these attackers.
It can feel that way sometimes.
Now, switching gears a bit, there's an investigation unfolding in the UK
Oh, right.
that I think is worth discussing.
The UK's Information Commissioner's Office, or ICO, is investigating TikTok, Reddit, and Imgur.
Okay. What sparked this investigation?
It centers around their data protection practices, specifically concerning children.
Oh, interesting.
The ICO wants to determine if these popular online platforms are adequately protecting the privacy and data of their young users
Makes sense.
and ensuring compliance with data protection regulations.
Right. This is a significant development. I mean, these platforms have millions of users,
Millions,
many of whom are children.
many of whom are children.
So I guess this reflects a growing concern about how social media companies handle children's data.
It does. We'll have to see what the outcome of these investigations is, but it could have major implications.
For sure. For how these companies operate and for online privacy regulations in general.
Yeah, potentially.
Let's talk about cybersecurity training. There's a growing realization that the traditional one-size-fits-all approach just isn't effective.
It's not cutting it anymore. It's no longer enough to just deliver, generic e-learning modules to everyone in an organization.
Yeah.
It's not personalized.
Right. It doesn't take into account the different roles people have or the different types of threats they might encounter in their work.
Exactly.
So, a sales representative is going to face different cybersecurity challenges than, say, a system administrator.
Exactly.
So tailored cybersecurity training is becoming so crucial.
Crucial.
And I imagine this type of training is probably more engaging.
More engaging, more relevant.
More relevant.
And ultimately more effective.
And more effective, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's move on to some practical tips,
Okay.
for our listeners. Cyber attacks are becoming more and more sophisticated, so how can individuals stay safe?
Well, it's not just about the technology anymore. It's also about personal responsibility. There are a few things individuals can do. First, use strong, unique passwords for all their online accounts.
Right. It's tempting to reuse passwords.
It is, but it's one of the easiest ways for attackers to gain access to multiple accounts.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are some other tips?
Be cautious about suspicious emails and links.
Oh, yeah.
Don't click on anything that looks even a little off.
Right.
Regularly update software and devices because those updates often include security patches that fix vulnerabilities that attackers could use.
Right.
And consider using a reputable password manager to help you manage those credentials securely.
Okay, those are all really good reminders. I think cybersecurity can feel overwhelming sometimes.
It can.
But taking those small steps can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's discuss this tactic that attackers are using to gain control of systems.
Okay.
They're leveraging MITRE ATT&CK techniques, particularly T1543.
Create or modify system process. Policy kit.
Okay, again, that sounds very technical. Can you explain that in simpler terms?
Sure. Policy kit is a component that allows processes with, limited privileges to modify system configurations.
Okay.
Attackers are exploiting vulnerabilities in Policy kit to gain unauthorized access and control.
So they're escalating their privileges.
They are.
Executing commands they shouldn't have access to.
Exactly.
So they're essentially exploiting a system designed to make things easier for legitimate users.
Pretty much. This highlights the importance of understanding the techniques outlined in the AMIDAR-E ATT&CK framework.
Right.
It's a valuable resource for cybersecurity professionals. It provides a knowledge base of adversary tactics and techniques based on real-world observations.
Okay, so let's shift our focus to the bigger picture.
Right.
The World Economic Forum recently released its Global Risks Report 2025.
Yes.
What does this report tell us about the challenges we're facing?
It paints a pretty concerning picture, to be honest. A world grappling with growing divisions and accelerating risks, from geopolitical tensions to climate change.
Right.
And of course, cybersecurity threats are a big part of this picture. It highlights that the challenges we're facing are increasingly interconnected. We can't address them in isolation.
We need global cooperation.
We need global cooperation and collective action to build a more resilient future.
It's a call to action.
It is, for governments, businesses, and individuals.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about a cybersecurity solution that's gaining popularity.
Okay.
SOC as a service, or SOCOS.
SOCOS.
So for those unfamiliar with the term, what exactly is SOCOS?
SOCOS is essentially outsourcing those security operations center functions to a provider.
Okay.
They offer a range of services, including threat detection, monitoring, incident response, security expertise.
It's like having a dedicated team of cybersecurity experts on call
Exactly.
without having to build an in-house team.
Right. This is a particularly appealing option for organizations that might lack the resources
Or the expertise.
or the expertise to manage those functions themselves.
Right. So it's a way for organizations to level up their cybersecurity posture without breaking the bank.
Exactly. It can be a very cost-effective solution.
Okay. Let's talk about another important area.
Okay.
Data loss prevention.
Or DLP.
DLP, right.
Yeah.
So what's changing in the world of DLP?
DLP is evolving from a, product category to a comprehensive data protection strategy.
Right.
It's no longer just about buying a DLP tool and hoping for the best.
So it's about a more holistic approach.
It is. It's about identifying, classifying, and protecting sensitive data throughout its life cycle, from creation to disposal.
Okay.
This involves policies, procedures, and technologies to prevent unauthorized access, use, or disclosure of that data.
This brings us to the topic of service level agreements.
SLA.
Or SLAs, right? What's the importance of SLAs in cybersecurity?
Organizations are realizing the importance of having, clear SLAs that outline the responsibilities and expectations for those cybersecurity services.
Okay. So especially when outsourcing security functions.
Especially when outsourcing,
For third-party providers.
Exactly.
So it's about setting clear expectations for the get-go.
From the get-go. SLAs should define things like performance metrics, response times, other key aspects of service delivery.
So accountability and transparency.
Accountability and transparency, yeah. It's a good practice to ensure you're getting what you pay for.
Absolutely. Now, let's discuss another security practice that's gaining prominence.
Okay.
Dark web monitoring.
Dark web monitoring.
It's become an essential element of, data breach prevention programs and cybersecurity strategies in general.
It has.
So can you explain what dark web monitoring entails?
Sure. It involves actively monitoring those underground forums and marketplaces where stolen data is often traded. By keeping an eye on these illicit activities, organizations can identify potential breaches and take steps to mitigate damage.
Before it becomes a big problem.
Before it becomes a major problem.
So it's like an early warning system.
It is.
For data breaches.
It can provide valuable insights into, the types of data that attackers are targeting, the methods they're using, the overall threat landscape.
Let's discuss some vulnerabilities that have been added to CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog.
The KV catalog.
The KV catalog, right.
So CISA has added a set of vulnerabilities affecting Cisco Small Business RV Series routers to its catalog.
Okay, so what does this mean for organizations using those routers?
These vulnerabilities could allow attackers to, gain unauthorized access to the router's web interface, potentially compromising the entire network.
Wow.
The data it holds.
So organizations using these routers need to prioritize patching.
Patching immediately.
Immediately, okay.
CISA also added a flaw in Hitachi Vantara Pentaho BA server to its catalog.
And what does that flaw do?
It could allow attackers to execute arbitrary code on vulnerable servers,
Okay.
potentially giving them control.
So another vulnerability added to the KEV catalog affects Microsoft Windows Win32K.
Yeah, a reminder that patching Windows systems should be routine.
Should be a routine security practice.
Leaving this vulnerability unpatched could allow attackers to gain control of the system.
And finally, CISA has added flaws in progress What's Up Gold to its catalog.
Yeah.
What do our listeners need to know about this?
These flaws could also enable attackers to gain control of a system and compromise sensitive data. The key takeaway here is that CISA adds vulnerabilities to this catalog when they're known to be actively exploited in the wild.
Right.
It's a clear sign that organizations need to take these vulnerabilities seriously.
And take steps to remediate them quickly?
Quickly.
So it sounds like CISA is trying to help organizations prioritize their patching efforts
They are.
by highlighting the most critical vulnerabilities.
The most critical ones, yes. It's a valuable resource that all organizations should be aware of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to some broader cybersecurity best practices.
Okay.
In today's interconnected world, a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity is absolutely essential.
It is.
So what does that entail?
It means going beyond just the technology. It involves having the right security tools in place, but it also requires fostering a culture of security awareness.
Okay.
Organizations need to implement policies, provide training, and ensure that everyone understands their role.
In protecting sensitive data.
Protecting sensitive data, it's a team effort.
It is a team effort.
Okay.
So let's discuss some recommendations.
All right.
For organizations looking to strengthen their defenses,
Okay.
where should they start?
Regular vulnerability assessments and penetration testing are essential.
VAP.
VAPT. They help organizations identify and fix those weaknesses in their systems. Think of it like a security checkup.
Right.
These exercises uncover hidden vulnerabilities and test the effectiveness of your existing security controls.
Okay, so it's a proactive way to find and fix problems before attackers can exploit them.
Exactly.
Are there any other measures organizations should consider?
Implementing comprehensive monitoring and logging solutions is also crucial. This helps organizations detect and analyze suspicious activities.
So it's about having visibility into what's happening on the network.
Visibility, yeah. Some systems, or security information and event management systems, are key here. They collect and analyze logs from various sources,
Okay.
giving you a centralized view of security events and enabling you to detect and respond to threats in real time.
It's like having a central nervous system
It is.
for cybersecurity.
Or cybersecurity.
Okay, so staying informed about the latest threats and vulnerabilities is also essential.
Essential. Organizations should subscribe to security advisories and alerts from official vendors, CERTs, computer emergency response teams, other authoritative sources.
Okay, so it's about staying ahead of the curve.
Staying ahead of the curve. Regularly reviewing and assessing the impact of those alerts is crucial for taking the right actions
To mitigate potential damage.
to mitigate potential damage.
Okay. Let's move on to best practices for protecting sensitive data.
Okay.
Implementing strong access control and authentication practices is fundamental to data security.
It is. It's about ensuring that only authorized individuals have access to sensitive information,
Okay.
preventing that unauthorized access, use, or disclosure.
It's about controlling who has access to what.
Exactly. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is key here.
Right.
Adds an extra layer of security to accounts. It's also important to implement role-based access control,
Or RBAC.
RBAC, which restricts access based on a user's role within the organization.
Okay.
And of course, strong password policies are a must.
Right. These are all measures that can significantly enhance data security. Now let's talk about mobile applications.
Called applications.
They've become such an integral part of our lives. What are the cybersecurity considerations?
It's crucial to protect sensitive data within those mobile applications, especially since we store so much personal information on our phones.
Right.
That means ensuring these apps are designed and developed with security in mind from the start.
From day one.
From day one.
Okay, so what are some of the key things to consider?
Data encryption is crucial.
Okay.
This protects data even if the device is lost or stolen.
Okay.
Secure coding practices are also essential to prevent vulnerabilities
That attackers could exploit.
that attackers could exploit. And regular security testing helps identify and fix any weaknesses.
This is a good reminder that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. It's not just up to the IT department.
It's not. Developers, everyone involved in creating these apps need to prioritize security.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked.
Okay.
The role of human error in cybersecurity breaches.
Human error. It seems like no matter how advanced our security technologies get, human mistakes continue to be a factor.
A major factor in successful cyber attacks.
A major factor.
So can you give us some examples?
Falling victim to phishing scams, choosing weak passwords, clicking on malicious links.
Right.
Just a few examples of how human actions can undermine even the strongest security.
Right. So again, this suggests that cybersecurity isn't just about having the right technology. It's about fostering a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
Within organizations.
In organizations, right.
Investing in that security awareness training is so crucial.
So crucial. Employees need to understand those tactics that attackers use.
And how to recognize and avoid potential threats.
What are some practical ways organizations can do this?
Conduct regular phishing awareness training.
Okay.
Even simulated phishing exercises.
Oh, interesting.
This helps employees learn how to identify and avoid those phishing attempts. Organizations should also enforce strong password policies,
Right.
requiring employees to use strong, unique passwords for all their work accounts.
Okay, so these measures can go a long way
They can.
in creating a more secure environment.
A more secure environment, definitely.
Okay. Now let's shift gears and talk about network security best practices.
All right.
One of the most important practices is network segmentation.
Network segmentation.
So can you explain what that is?
Sure. It's essentially about dividing the network into distinct segments.
Okay.
Using firewalls, VLANs, access controls.
Okay, so what's the benefit of doing this?
It helps isolate those critical assets from less secure areas of the network.
Okay.
This reduces the attack surface, making it harder for attackers to move laterally within the network.
Right, and gain access to sensitive information.
And gain access to sensitive information.
So it's like building walls.
Building walls within the network.
To contain a potential breach.
Exactly. Segmentation helps to limit the damage.
If a breach does occur.
If a breach does occur.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about incident response planning.
Incident response planning.
Every organization needs a comprehensive incident response plan.
They do.
So this plan should outline procedures for detecting, responding to, and recovering from security incidents.
It should.
So it's about having a roadmap.
A roadmap for handling security incidents.
So this ensures that organizations can respond quickly and effectively.
Quickly and effectively. Minimizing damage and downtime. The plan should include procedures for identifying the scope of the incident, containing the damage, eradicating the threat, recovering affected systems, and learning from the incident to improve future responses.
Right. So it's about being prepared for the worst case scenario.
Being prepared, yeah. One crucial aspect of incident response planning is maintaining those offline, ransomware-resistant backups.
Why are offline backups so important? Especially when it comes to ransomware attacks.
Because they allow you to recover from a ransomware attack without having to pay the ransom.
Right.
You see, if your backups are connected to the network, they're vulnerable to encryption.
Right.
Offline backups provide a safe, reliable way to restore data, minimizing the impact.
It's a good insurance policy.
It is. Another important aspect of incident response is collaboration.
Collaboration. So who should organizations be collaborating with?
Organizations should promptly report cyber incidents to Cyber 999, law enforcement, other relevant authorities. This helps with investigations and remediation efforts.
Okay, so it's about working together to combat cybercrime.
Working together. By sharing information and coordinating responses, we can track down attackers, recover stolen assets, prevent future attacks.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look at some forward-looking recommendations. Cyber threats are constantly evolving, so how can organizations stay ahead?
Well, organizations need to embrace emerging technologies and innovative approaches. We need to leverage advancements in artificial intelligence,
AI,
machine learning, to enhance our threat detection, prevention, and response capabilities.
So it's about using technology to fight technology.
Pretty much. AI and ML can automate those security tasks, analyze massive amounts of data, and detect and respond to threats much more effectively than humans can.
It's about using the right tools for the job.
The right tools for the job. Another important trend is the adoption of a zero-trust model.
Zero trust, okay.
What does that mean? It's about moving away from that traditional perimeter-based security,
Okay.
where we assume that everything inside the network is trusted.
Right.
In a zero-trust model, Trust is never assumed, even for users or devices within the network.
Okay, so you're verifying every access request regardless of where it's coming from.
Exactly. Zero trust involves enforcing least privilege principles,
Okay.
meaning users only have access to the information they need to do their jobs.
Right.
And continuous monitoring.
Continuous monitoring and validation of access rights
It's a much more robust and proactive approach
to security.
to security.
Let's talk about endpoint security. What are the key considerations?
Endpoints like laptops, desktops, mobile devices, they're often the primary targets
Of cyber attacks.
of cyber attacks. So strengthening that endpoint security is crucial.
Okay. What are some specific things organizations can do?
Deploying those AI-driven threat detection solutions can help identify and respond to threats quickly.
Okay.
Advanced email filtering systems are also crucial for blocking phishing and other email-borne threats. And EDR tools, endpoint detection and response tools, provide that real-time monitoring and response
to stop those attacks before they can spread.
before they can spread.
Okay, so layering those security measures is essential.
It is. Now let's talk about securing backup and disaster recovery. We've already discussed offline backups,
Right.
but what other measures should organizations consider?
What else should they be thinking about?
It's crucial to develop a comprehensive disaster recovery plan.
Okay.
This plan should outline procedures for restoring those critical business operations in the event of a disruption,
Okay.
whether it's a natural disaster, a cyber attack, something else.
Right, so it's about ensuring business continuity.
Business continuity.
Yeah, okay.
The plan should include procedures for identifying critical systems, establishing those recovery time objectives,
RTOs.
RTOs, how quickly you need to restore operations, and recovery point objectives,
RTO.
RPOs, how much data loss is acceptable. It's also important to test those recovery procedures regularly and make sure they work.
Right, so it's one thing to have a plan, it's another thing to make sure that the plan actually works.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's talk about email security. Email is often the entry point for many cyber attacks.
Implementing advanced email filtering techniques is essential. This reduces the risk of phishing attacks and other email-borne threats.
So it's about having those sophisticated filters in place
Sophisticated filters, yes.
to identify and block suspicious emails before they reach users.
Before they reach users, yes.
It's about putting up those defenses at the front line. Let's shift our focus to cloud security. Many organizations are moving their operations to the cloud, but what are the security implications of this?
Cloud security is paramount. Organizations need to ensure that their cloud environments are secure, that their data is protected, and that they're maintaining the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of their cloud-based systems.
So it's not just about relying on the security measures provided by the cloud providers.
It's not. Organizations need to implement additional layers of security and adopt a shared responsibility model. They need to work closely with those cloud providers to ensure that both parties are fulfilling their security obligations.
So it's a partnership. What are some specific recommendations for enhancing security in cloud environments?
Enforcing strong authentication protocols is essential.
Okay.
Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is a must for accessing cloud accounts.
Right.
It helps prevent that unauthorized access, even if credentials are compromised.
Okay, so it's about making it harder for those attackers to get in.
Making it much harder. Robust encryption mechanisms are also crucial. This protects data both in transit and at rest.
Right.
This helps ensure data confidentiality and integrity.
Okay. Now let's discuss supply chain security.
Supply chain security.
With increasingly complex global supply chains, securing them from cyber threats is becoming more and more crucial.
It is. Organizations need to understand that attacks can target not only them directly, but also their suppliers and partners.
Right, so it's about recognizing that a weak link anywhere in the supply chain can compromise the whole system.
The whole system.
Right. So what should organizations be doing to mitigate these risks?
They need to assess the security posture of their suppliers and partners, implement robust security controls throughout the supply chain, and establish clear communication channels to address security incidents.
Okay, so communication is key. Let's explore some emerging trends in cybersecurity. One that's getting a lot of attention is agentic AI.
Agentic AI.
Agentic AI is transforming how businesses operate, but it's also presenting opportunities and challenges
It is.
for cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity.
So can you explain what agentic AI is and why it's so relevant to cybersecurity?
Sure. Agentic AI involves systems that can act autonomously.
Autonomous.
They can make decisions and take actions without human intervention.
Okay.
While this can enhance efficiency and productivity, in many business processes, it also introduces new security risks.
Right.
We need to consider the potential for unintended consequences.
Okay.
An autonomous system might take an action that leads to unforeseen security vulnerabilities.
I see.
There's also the risk of these AI systems being manipulated or compromised by attackers.
Oh, right?
They could be tricked into taking actions that benefit the attacker. Robust governance and oversight mechanisms are essential to ensure that these systems are developed and deployed responsibly, incorporating security measures and ethical considerations.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
Okay. Now let's look at some security incidents and trends from recent months. What's been happening?
We've seen a surge in attacks targeting AWS S3 buckets.
For our listeners who might not be familiar, what are S3 buckets?
S3 buckets are cloud storage services provided by AWS.
Okay.
They're widely used by organizations to store data in the cloud.
Okay.
Attackers are exploiting misconfigurations or vulnerabilities in these S3 buckets to gain access to sensitive data.
So it's a reminder that cloud security is just as important as traditional network security.
It is. Organizations need to be incredibly diligent in configuring S3 bucket permissions, implementing access controls, and encrypting sensitive data to mitigate the risk of those breaches.
Okay. What other trends are you seeing in the cloud security landscape?
Attacks targeting Microsoft 365 environments are also on the rise.
Okay.
These attacks leverage those sophisticated techniques like password spraying
Password spraying
and using stealthy botnets
to compromise
to
accounts.
compromise accounts.
So the bad guys are getting better at breaking into these systems.
They are. Organizations using Microsoft 365 need to implement MFA, strong password policies, and regular security awareness training to mitigate the risk of these attacks.
Right, we talked about those earlier. Okay, let's talk about ransomware. It continues to be a major threat.
It does.
What's new in the world of ransomware?
Ransomware groups are becoming much more aggressive. They're no longer just encrypting data and demanding a ransom. They're stealing sensitive data and threatening to release it publicly if the victim doesn't pay.
This is called double extortion.
Double extortion. It puts enormous pressure on organizations
To pay.
because the potential damage from that data exposure can be huge.
Right?
Even worse than the disruption caused by the initial attack.
It sounds like ransomware has become even more sinister.
It has. Organizations need to implement those measures we've discussed earlier, things like offline backups, incident response plans, regular training, to mitigate the risks.
Of ransomware attacks and minimize the potential damage.
Minimize that potential damage.
Okay. We talked earlier about that vulnerability in Paragon Partition Manager's biontdrv.sys driver that's being exploited in those ransomware attacks.
Right.
Are there any other vulnerabilities that you want to highlight?
There have been reports of a spike in attacks targeting vulnerable internet-connected devices.
So we're talking about things like smart home devices, security cameras, and other IoT devices.
Exactly.
Okay. So these devices often have weak security,
Very weak security.
making them easy targets.
Easy targets for attackers.
So what's the risk here?
Attackers can compromise these devices and use them to launch larger-scale attacks.
Like expert speaker. It seems like we're constantly bombarded with news about these cyber attacks and vulnerabilities. It can be overwhelming.
It can be, yeah. But it's important to remember that cybersecurity is not just an IT issue. It affects every aspect of our lives.
It impacts our personal privacy, our financial security, even our national security and critical infrastructure.
We all have a role to play in making the digital world a safer place.
That's a good reminder. So what are the key takeaways from today's deep dive?
Well, the threat landscape is constantly evolving. Attacks are becoming more sophisticated, more targeted, and more persistent.
So we can't just sit back and wait for something to happen.
We need to be proactive. We need a multi-layered approach to cybersecurity, one that incorporates people, processes, and technology.
And we need to be vigilant.
Absolutely. We also need to be aware of our own online behavior. We need to adopt good cyber hygiene practices and stay informed about potential threats.
It's a shared responsibility.
It is. We need to work together to create a safer and more secure digital world.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this cybersecurity news deep dive. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and insights. Stay safe out there.